It's New Brew Thursday! Woo!
Yeah!
And I am solo today, but I have with me three of the coolest craft beer people in the planet. So I got Joey and Wayne from Cigar City, and Paul Kavulak from Nebraska Brewing Company. And yeah, the last time I talked to you, I couldn't remember Nebraska Brewing Company when I said that either. I don't know why that is.
You know, in my last name, I've heard it a billion different ways, but after the military, I'll answer to whatever comes close.
Nice. So I just totally butchered your last name then.
Kavulak.
Kavulak,
Yep,
really?
Yep.
All right, Kavulak. So I'm with Paul Kavulak. We're at the CBC. We're drinking Anchorstein and Sierra Nevada Torpedo, which is not brewed by either one of these guys, but it is in honor of the keynote speakers today, which is Ken Grossman and Fritz Maytag. But one of the great things about the CBC is it brings the brewers together, gets you guys in the same place, you get to collaborate, peer review, share ideas, and you guys have an announcement, right?
Yeah, we, Cigar City Nebraska Brewing Company, are currently working on a collaboration, and we kind of
awesome.
Kicked off the formalities last night in a stairway at the museum. So
That's excellent.
All the good stuff takes place in stairways. All that happens.
Oh, yes, it does. So tell us a little bit about the collaboration. I know it's early stages. It's just now in the development. What do you guys got planned out so far that you can talk about?
You want me to discuss it?
yeah, fire away.
Basically, we're looking at doing a very high gravity Belgian ale, probably golden in color.
Awesome.
Incorporating a couple of different fruits that we've both used in the past at each of our own breweries. Also incorporating some barrel aging that Nebraska is well familiar with, and they've released a very successful brand using these type of barrels. I don't want to go into too much detail because I want it to be a surprise for the consumer.
Right. We could tell you all about it, but then we'd have to kill you all. So
Exactly.
We're not going to do that. A couple of nights ago, I had the Marone Acidity from the brewery that you guys just did, which is phenomenal. It's
They
an
did
amazing
a
beer.
great job on that.
Talk a little bit about the process. Like, how is it working with other breweries? How is it like, what do you like about it? Maybe what you don't like about it? Keep it mostly positive.
The very first one that we did was with the brewery, like you said, and Patrick was coming over and hanging out with Matt Abdoni, which is craft brewer rep for J.J. Taylor, which is our
local market distributor.
Our distributor in Tampa, and asked Patrick if he wanted to hit accounts, and Patrick said, yeah, I want to hit accounts, but I want to go to Cigar City. And he came by, and we're packaging that day, so we're really busy, but I was able to get away for a little while and talk to him. And then he said, what do you think about doing a collaboration? And so from that point on, we were really excited because I'd never been involved in anything like that before. From that point on, you're talking about emails, and then we had a big meeting at the Great American Beer Festival. It was 2009.
Yeah.
And finally ironed out all the details verbally and like over a beer. And then over a year later, now it's finally going to be released on this Friday.
Right on.
So it was a long work in progress. Some of the complications with collaborations, if you're the hosting brewery, statement of process, if you're using any sort of unusual ingredients or process, that can be a headache. But the actual process of coming up with a recipe and trying to implement ideas that are unique for each brewery to make a single product that represents both breweries, that's very pleasant.
Yeah, that seems like it'd be the hardest thing to me is getting the personality of each brewery to come together and be exemplified by the beer, so that when the consumer's drinking it, they get like, because when I drink Cigar City beers, there's a certain je ne sais quoi about the beer that I like. Same with Nebraska Brewing Company, and they're different. And there's something about those beers that kind of speaks to the brewery. And so it's really interesting when you get a collaboration together and you kind of get both of those things coming out of the beer. It's very awesome. Now, Paul, you guys do a lot of barrel stuff, which is amazing. And I think anybody that watches our shows knows that we're huge fans of your beer. The Black Betty and the Melange à Trois are two of my favorite beers on the planet. Talk a little bit about your barrel processing, what you guys are doing with that, what you're doing in the future.
We started out playing with wine barrels. Chardonnay was one that we incorporated in a big barrel program that consisted primarily of Belgian beers. The wine aspects really we're using bigger beers, a little bit more hop character to them, so we hold the bugs back. And we're not looking for Brett, we're not inoculating, we're going for pure wine character on those barrels. Then we've also got some Stranahan's barrels that we use for Black Betty. We've got a barley wine, Bad Head. And when we finally finished bottling some of these last beers, we're thinking, how do we educate ourselves further? How do we push the envelope a little bit? And Cigar City continued to come to mind. We've had some of their beers, and so we thought a collaboration would be neat, not from a marketing perspective, but from an educational and envelope pushing perspective. So Cigar City continued to stick, and finally one day I just picked up the phone and called Joey, and I said, hey, what do you think? And the idea gelled a little bit, so we exchanged beers. I think between us, we enjoyed each other's beers greatly, and the stairwell last night was the start of, I think, something that's going to be pretty cool.
Right on. Very excited about that.
Obviously, the collaboration process, it's fun to get together and make beers, but what always I take a lot out of, what's exciting to me, is what you learn. Everyone has unique problems, and different people have different strengths and different weaknesses, from equipment to process to everything. And when Wayne came back from the brewery, from Placentia, and brewing out there, he was really invigorated and fired up, and because things that he had challenges with, other people have had those challenges before.
Right.
So you get to sort of sit and talk, and you learn a lot. I mean, it's almost like going to school, and you learn from each other in a way that's very memorable. So that's what's really exciting to me about that. I mean, obviously the beer is it's sort of a great result of it.
Us craft beer drinkers, we get to benefit from your guys' having fun and collaborating, because we get an even better beer.
But it makes the breweries better.
Exactly.
Now, each brewery is going to come away from that process knowing a lot more than they did going into it. And that's one of the reasons why, it takes a lot of energy, but I don't shy away from doing them, because I see it almost as like a continuing education thing. We have a lot to teach each other, and this is a great way to do it. And you teach by doing. We're going to actually make these
this
beers.
Collaboration, ultimately, we intend to brew at both breweries. So we'll start off, I think, at Cigar City, and then we'll brew it at Nebraska Brewing Company and throw a couple wrinkles in there. So as much as we can, we're making the same base beer, but we'll put our own little spin on it to make it uniquely ours.
Right on, right on. Well, I, for one, am very excited about it. I think what we're going to do right now, we're going to shoot off just for a minute, and we're going to give Bill the stage for a few minutes to do a Master Pairings. So go and enjoy that, and we'll be back in just a sec.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Master Pairings with me, Dr. Bill, and I have Steven Johnson here today. So just got back from the CBC where we had the opportunity to talk to Nebraska Brewing and Cigar City.
Two of my favorite breweries.
Yeah, great breweries, and very exciting that they have a collaboration coming up, which we won't go into any details, but I thought the perfect Master Pairings would be one of their beers. I picked Nebraska Brewing's Black Betty because it just came into the Southern California market. I have some fabulous cupcakes that Steven picked up. I think they're both chocolate based, but some are dark chocolate and some have caramel notes in them.
Yeah, the ones with the nuts and stuff have caramel in the middle and toffee on top.
Nice. Now, I usually don't go straight for an Imperial Stout with chocolate. It's easy. It is a great pairing tool though, so it's always great when you're doing your first beer dinners or pairings, or you just want to have people come over and you want to have something with dessert, where a lot of times normally you'd have a port or a great Sauterne or a cognac. An Imperial Stout is a fabulous after dinner drink, whether you're having a cigar or dessert. And it does pair really well with chocolates. A lot of times I like to try other things so it's kind of more unique, but it's great. And the reason why I wanted to do this particular beer is because this beer is a 9% Imperial Stout that's aged for 6 months in a Stranahan's whiskey barrel. Stranahan's one of the newer, I was gonna say new, but they're not that new anymore. Right. But micro distilleries or new distilleries that have popped up all across the country that are doing a lot of exciting distilled spirits. So Stranahan's whiskey is a classic kind of bourbon whiskey style, but it's not in Bourbon County, Kentucky, so it's not considered bourbon. But it's a great sipping whiskey. Anyways, they aged it for 6 months. And the reason why I paired Imperial Stout with the chocolate is you guys know Imperial Stouts have coffee and chocolate notes, which are fabulous. So they'll really meld really well with the chocolate. But what I like about barrels of whiskey, vanilla notes. So now we've got another dimension added to it. We're getting vanilla, coffee, and chocolate. Right. So that's going to play really well with these different cupcakes. So let's open this up and have a taste and see how it's tasting.
Please.
There you go, Stephen.
Thank you, sir. Oh, God, I love just smelling this beer. I could just sit and smell this beer all night.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So what do you get right off the nose?
The whiskey, obviously.
Whiskey, but I get vanilla.
Yeah.
That's what I get. I pick up, there's fusel notes, but you get that vanilla, and the vanilla is from the barrels.
But it smells like a really smooth, really easy to drink whiskey, which includes the vanilla, which includes a lot of those characteristics. And so I think this is one of the stouts that I really like. The bourbon blend on it is not overpowering like a lot of them can be. It's
there though.
Yeah.
It's definitely there, and it's there in the front and mid palate, and then it gradually goes into a little roasted malt, coffee notes, hints of chocolate. I think what you're going to find is those things are going to be accentuated when we get into this.
Oh my God.
Beautiful, rich chocolate.
Mm. Oh, incredible.
Delicious. And the vanilla notes are what come out. It pairs beautifully.
What other options would you go with the Black Betty?
A great blue cheese. Needs to be intense and not overly soft because of the whiskey. Mm-hmm. So I would Stilton, of course, you know, that's a great go-to. So this was really nice. This had melted molten caramel in it.
I'm only going to take a quarter of this.
What do you think of the pairing? What's your opinion?
It's phenomenal. I think part of my issue with the bourbon barrel-aged stuff is that there's always a counterpart of it that's not. And so I'm used to drinking the counterpart that's not bourbon barrel-aged, and I like that beer. And so the bourbon barrel-aged always comes off as a little overpowering sometimes.
Well, it depends how hot it is, yeah.
Right. And so with this one, the blend is so natural and so perfect. I can't imagine this beer without that aspect of it.
And it's a fairly low ABV beer, too. A lot of the Imperial Stouts are big, and then you're going to pick up fusel notes from that because you got a 12% or 18% or 21% Imperial Stout. So on top of that, it's not really the barrel as much. That comes into play. It's the fact that the alcohol's so high in the beer to start with. Now, a wet barrel can add to alcohol, and obviously longer in a barrel, it's going to pick up more intense flavors and aromatics. I really like the caramel even more because it brings another nuance to it besides just the chocolate. So the caramel chocolate, but you could definitely do this with a lot of different fun things. This would go great with certain fruits too, berries, things like that.
Oh yeah, I can totally see that, like a dark berry kind of tart.
But I really like this. I think to be fair though, now we're going to have to do a pairing with Marshall Zukov.
Oh yes, so look for that soon.
But I really do like to have this out there for people, the Imperial Stouts or Stouts in general with chocolate or desserts. Because even though when you come to like one of my chocolate pairings that I do at Stone, I might only have one Imperial Stout out of 6 or 7 chocolate dishes. What I really like is this is just a great segue to for people to introduce non-beer drinkers into a more intense beer. It's all about, you know, we always bring in people with gateway beers that are Budweiser drinkers or wine drinkers. You know, maybe we'll pour a Flemish Red or a Lambic for a wine drinker to kind of give them those same nuances, or a Belgian triple. But having them try this with the dessert, they see what a natural marriage is, and it just plays really well.
Right.
So I highly recommend chocolate and stouts. Just a great start for anybody who's getting into pairing, and just play with the different ones. There's so many variables in the stouts, the different Imperial Stouts and the different barrel-aged stouts. So for all of you, I'd like to thank you for coming out to another Master Pairings. Cheers.
Cheers.
Boom.
Another thing I wanted to add to the benefits of the collaboration for the brewers, it doesn't just actually benefit the brewers and the breweries, it also benefits the consumer. And what I mean is, well, for instance, another project that we have going was a project that we did with McKellar, out of Denmark.
Right.
And basically, we decided to show the consumer all the components of the collaboration. So we each wrote a recipe for an Imperial Sweet Stout. We fermented them, separately, of course. And then each beer was secondary fermented with raisins, and we added threshold levels of cinnamon. And then those beers, half of each batch was blended into a 15-barrel tank, and then all shipped into rum barrels. So that'll be the true collaboration that'll be released. But then we took half
you'll
of
get to see the threads of that.
Yeah.
the other half of the beers without rum barrels, package them individually to create 3 products. So you can taste the base beer from Mikkel, the base beer that we did, and then the collaboration on the rum barrel.
Oh, it's excellent.
And also it lets the brewers experiment to the extent to where we have another one coming up pretty soon, the return collaboration with a brewery, in which you're going to take the same base beer and age on 3 different types of exotic woods. So it'll allow the consumer to see what each wood does to that same base beer.
That's excellent.
So it's cool for us, and I think it's really cool for the consumer as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it does. I think when brewers start doing that kind of experimentation and that kind of playing with beer and whatever, it does help the consumer to get a better idea of how beer is affected. Like, just even switching out yeast.
That's something Mikkel's played a lot with. He's done a lot of single yeast series, same beer, different yeast, or same beer, different hop. And it does kind of help educate your palate. Like, wow, same beer, different yeast, 2 totally different directions.
Beer, yeah.
And so it's an education, but it's a product you can enjoy as well.
Well, that's awesome.
And one of the reasons that I was very interested in working with Paul at Nebraska Brewing is because we're both coming out of states that we're not really renowned for our craft beer, and so I wouldn't say that we have a lot to prove, but we do sort of we're aware of the fact that we're not craft beer hotbeds, and the opportunity to work with another brewer that's sort of facing some of the same challenge in educating a local market that we have is, obviously very exciting. So that was one of the things that really immediately was enticing to me was, hey, this guy's in Nebraska. He's dealing with a lot of the same problems I am.
That's awesome, yeah. Because, like you said, coming from markets that are not extremely popular, well-known, craft beer, like, nobody's like, oh, I'm flying to Nebraska to drink craft beer for the month, It's not going to happen. But you guys have really done a good job of getting yourselves on the radar and being, Cigar City, Nebraska, these are heavily sought after beers. They're very, very traded a lot.
Nebraska, we don't make a lot. And it's funny, we do everything we can to make ourselves look big. And, to try to get Nebraska noticed a little bit. And we're still brewing out of a 10-barrel brew house. And last year we made all of 1,200 barrels.
Wow.
So the scarcity of the beer is real. And the markets that we're in, we don't send a lot into them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that you guys are coming together and doing this. Do you have an idea of when we might be able to expect the beer? Can you say that at all? Or?
I think we're kind of targeting, possibly a June, July, launch. We're going to source some ingredients. We're going to try to use some native Nebraska fruits. These guys, they've got some things that we won't divulge yet that we'll incorporate. And I think what's really cool is we're going to try to go to each other's locations and brew as well.
Okay.
So we'll get.
Are you going to do a double batch in each location, or is somebody going to host?
We'll host the first time,
okay,
and then Nebraska will host the second time.
Right on.
End up being 2 different beers.
Excellent.
And we're trying to brainstorm a name right now that's along the lines of something you wouldn't expect. Good beer, in my opinion, can come from anywhere, but we're trying to make sure people understand that.
Right on. Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to try it. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Enjoy your CBC.
Cheers.
And try not to party too hard tonight. Stay safe and drink beer.